The Labor Party has made itself entirely irrelevant in economic policy. They've consigned themselves to the dustbin of economic history, and they're making it even worse by opposing absolutely everything we're doing at the moment.
But why wouldn't you then label this a coalition Greens government, as you referred to a Labor Green government?
Well, we're not married to the Greens. I mean, the Labor Party formed a coalition with the Greens. The reaction of the Labor Party is absolutely bizarre. It's like a husband being upset that their ex-wife went off and had a cup of coffee with some other man. I mean, it's bizarre behaviour from Labor. They don't want to participate in the economic debate. Labor Party today is not only opposing what we took to the last election, they are opposing what they took to the last election. And I'll give you a good example. They want us to keep their promise on Gonski funding, school education funding, but now they are opposing the savings that they announced to fund the Gonski education proposals. So Labor is not only opposing what we took to the last election, they're opposing what they took to the last election. They're just making themselves irrelevant.
So do you expect then that you're going to have trouble getting this through, that the Labor will try to stall this deal?
Well, I would say to the Labor Party, the only way you can claim back any form of integrity in this matter is to help with the swift passage of this legislation through the Senate and then the House of Representatives, because next week we reach the limit of $300 billion and the Labor Party left us with debt of well over $400 billion.
OK. Do you have a personal debt ceiling in mind, a figure that you don't want to exceed, and what is it?
Well, I want as little as debt as possible. That's my goal, but I've got to deal with what I've inherited. And what I've inherited is debt well above $400 billion. When we release the mid-year economic and fiscal outlook in the next few days, you will see the true state of the budget that we have inherited from Labor.
Well, the Coalition campaigned against debt, pledged to pay it down. When will you deliver that? When will we see debt start to go down?
Well, as soon as we can get the budget under control. And what we've been doing over the last few weeks is methodically going through every area of public expenditure, and we've found a massive amount of unfunded commitments from Labor. We've found a large number of government enterprises that have been running at a loss, and Labor has buried those losses. And we've found a large number of areas where the Labor Party was meant to fund ongoing maintenance of government facilities and enterprises, but they never allocated the money to it.
So will we see a figure for when debt will start to come down when we see the MyEFO in coming days?
You will see the total state of the budget. You will see what peak debt really is meant to be. It'll all be the legacy of Labor. We're not going to let them off the hook on this.
Will there be a year on that, though?
Well, we're hoping to get to a final year on that. Of course we are.
With access to debt now freed up once this goes through, and an economy that you say is stuck in second gear, do you now look to borrow for infrastructure like a Sydney second airport?
Well, we will obviously lay that all out in the budget. But let me just go back. The debt limit was artificial. The problem was under Labor it became a debt target, not a debt limit. The fact is they introduced it, the debt limit, in 2008 at $75 billion, and they blew that. And then they said, no, we won't go above 200, and they blew that. And 250.
Points,
no, but they're important points, Louise, because
but you have made those points.
Well, I want to make them again so that your listeners make sure that I want your listeners to understand that every time Labor set a debt limit, they blew it.
How much do you expect to use?
Well, I am now in a position where I'm going through the budget. We'll have peak debt revealed in the mid-year economic and fiscal outlook, and we'll be doing everything we can to ensure that we never hit that level. But it relies on the Labor Party supporting the savings that we make. And the Labor Party is blocking, at the moment, $18 billion of savings and a further $7 billion on top of that of debt reduction. So they can't have it on both ways. They can't, on the one hand, cry about debt and then on the other hand, block everything we're doing to reduce it.
OK, now in last night's speech to the Business Council, the Prime Minister said he wanted to lead a reforming government. How does blocking GrainCorp takeover fit with that?
Oh, Louise, people need to get over this. Let's be frank. CSL, Commonwealth Serum Laboratories, was blocked in the United States from taking over a US entity because they were concerned that it could end up in CSL, an Australian company, having a monopoly in the United States. And that's the biggest market in the world. So I think we need to grow up, with some of the commentary. We have the maturity to be able to say no where it is in the national interest, but we also overwhelmingly say yes to a vast number of foreign investments that are in our national interest. So let's not consign ourselves to the backwater of international economic behaviour and say that we can only ever say no or we can only ever say yes.
Mr Hockey, thank you for your time.
Thanks very much, Liz.